You're welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to be talking about reproduction in man and which include the male and the female. So we are going to be looking at reproduction. So reproduction is the ability of living organism to be able to give rise to young ones. So and the young ones that will be given birth to will be of the same species. So we have the sexual reproduction and the asexual reproduction. So the asexual reproduction requires only a single parent, and the offspring that is produced is exact replica of that single parent. So why in sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction in which gametes will fuse together, and that means it requires two parents, the male and the female. They fuse together in a process called fertilization, and they give, and a new individual will be formed. So today we are going to be looking at the different organs of the male and the organs of the females that are used in reproduction. So now this is a diagram of the male reproductive system. So you can see the part of the excretory system that is part of the reproductive system, because they are interconnected. So now, the first one we're going to be talking about is this testes here. So is the testes. So the testes, we have two testes. They are oval structure that are suspended by the spermatic cord, and it is these testes, within these testes, that sperm has been produced, and the seminiferous tubules are located within these testes. So they are composed of sperm producing cells. So these seminiferous tubule produce sperms. They contain cells that produce sperms, and they have some cells also that are needed for the optimum survival of sperm. So we have the Sertoli cells, which nourishes the sperm and also aids it aids the maturation. So we have the Leydig cells, which helps in producing the testosterone, the male hormone. So also we have the epididymis. The epididymis is located at the posterior aspect of the testis. So this long coiled tube is a place where the sperm are being stored. So after being produced in the testes, the sperm are moved to the epididymis for temporary storage. So from there, the sperm will be moved through this tube, this narrow tube called the vas deferens. So the vas deferens, or the sperm duct, will lead the sperm, so, and it will take the sperm to the seminal vesicle. So the seminal vesicle is a small sac where the sperm are being stored. So they are being stored. So, and the seminal vesicle also secretes major parts of the seminal fluid. So from there, the sperm will be moved to the prostate gland. So this prostate gland, you can see, and it has a lot of tubes that connect it to the urethra. So the prostate gland also secretes part of the fluid, of the seminal fluid. So now, after that, then we have this corpus gland. So the sperm will be moved to the corpus gland also. The corpus gland is also known as the bulbo-urethral gland. So, and they are all these organs, they secrete part of the seminal fluid. So now, so when the sperm which travels from the corpus gland, it will travel in through the urethra. So the urethra is a tube, is a long tube that passes through the penis. So it is through this urethra that the sperm will travel, so that it will be discharged during ejaculation. So the last part of the male reproductive organ system we have been looking at is the penis. So this is a muscular organ also that is used to introduce the sperm into the female body. So that is the penis. So now we're going to be looking at the structure of the male reproductive cell. So here is the structure of the male mammalian gamete. So you can see that this is the structure of the spermatozoa, and it's divided into different parts. So we have this segment here, which is the head segment. So we have the head. So the next one is the neck. So we have this other one. This is the middle piece. So this segment that runs down here is the flagellum or the tail. So, and here is the head piece. So you can see, so on the head we have this structure here known as the acrosome. This acrosome contains lytic enzymes. These lytic enzymes, they help the sperm to be able to dissolve the shell that surrounds the oocyte, so that it will be able to penetrate into the egg. So we have the nucleus. So this nucleus is the nucleus carries the genetic information of the sperm. So we have on the neck and here we have the centrioles, which contains a lot of microtubules that form base for the formation of a flagella and cilia. So, and this end piece, this tail, this part is the tail, or the flagella. So that is what helps the motility of the sperm. So you can see is a whip-like structure that helps the sperm to be able to move within the female reproductive system. So as we have been talking about the reproductive system, so this is the structure of the female reproductive system. So the first one here is the ovary. So this ovary, we have two of it. So ovaries. So this is the site of production of the egg. So the female egg is produced in the ovary, and this takes place monthly. So when the egg is released, so it will be received by this structure called the oviduct. So the process of releasing the egg from the ovary is called ovulation. So when the oviduct receive the egg, so the egg travels through the oviduct into the uterus. So the oviduct serves as the passageway for the egg. And not only that, the oviduct or the fallopian tube is the place where fertilization takes place. So fertilization takes place within the fallopian tube. So when the sperm enters into the female reproductive system, so it meets the egg at this point here, and it fertilizes the egg. So the fertilized egg now travels down to the uterus. So this part is the uterus, is the muscular organ that houses the developing zygote. So and so and when the zygote begins to increase as it grows, the uterus too will keep enlarging. So the uterus is also known as the womb. So okay, so now the next one is the cervix. So this cervix is a muscle, is a ring of muscles that has a tiny aperture. So this opening is closed. So when the baby is here, so it should be closed. So and during time for labor, as the uterus begin to contract and relax, so the cervix begins to open to allow the baby to pass through. So next we have the vagina. So this vagina is the part of the female reproductive system that receive the sperm during ejaculation. So, and it also serves as the birth canal. That means when the baby is ready to be born, the baby pass through this canal to come out. So you can see all the structures of the internal part of the female reproductive system. So all these are located in the internal part of the female body. So we can see the bladder and the urethra with their relation um to the female reproductive system. So we have other parts here that are not um, shown in this diagram because they are located on the outer part of the body. So this part is the common name for them is the vulva. So the vulva is not shown in this diagram. So and the vulva consists of all the parts that make up the external part of the female reproductive system. So which include mons pubis. So this mons pubis is a fat part that is located on the anterior part of the pubic symphysis. It is covered with hair, followed by the labia majora. So these are two lips they bear in. So and then we have the labia minora. So there are two lips also, but they do not have hair, so they are hairless. So and all these area covered by the labia minora, we refer to them as the vestibule. So down below we see two orifice. Sorry, we see two glands that are located very close to the vaginal orifice. So we call them the Bartholin's glands. So they secrete mucus that lubricates this area during sexual stimulation. For the female gamete, we have the oocytes. So this oocyte, it has a nucleus, so which contains the genetic material of the egg, and it also has the germinal vesicle. It has the germinal vesicle. So we also have the cytoplasm, which provides nourishment. This cytoplasm contains yolk, which which provide nourishment for the embryo, especially at the embryonic stage. So we have the cytoplasm. So and also we have this structure that surround the cytoplasm. We have the membrane. So this is the inner membrane called the vitelline membrane, and the outer one called the plasma membrane. So this membrane they surrounds the egg to protect the egg. So these are this is the structure of the female sex cell. So with this, we have learned about the male and the female reproductive system and their cell. So we can see the differences between their cell. So the differences in between the egg and the sperm is that the the sperm is very small, so it cannot be seen with the naked eye. Because the egg is big, so it can be seen with the naked eye. So we can say that the sperm has a tail that it can use to move, so the sperm is motile, but the egg lacks tail, so it is immotile. So the sperm has head, so but the egg does not have head. So we can see that these are the differences between them. So these are the differences between them. So the similarities between the male and the female reproductive system is that both has gonads, which produces cells. So the gonad in the male is the testis, and the cell is the spermatozoa, while the gonad in the female is the ovary, and the cell is the egg or the ovum. So and they both has ducts through which uh the cell can pass, and also they have openings that can release the cell out of where they are produced, and they are both ductless gland. So the differences between them include there is absence of there's absence of ovary in the male, while there is presence of ovary in the female. So there is presence of testes in the male, while there is absence of testes in the female. So the male lacks cervix and vagina, while the female has cervix and vagina. So we can also see that the male has seminal gland, prostate gland, and corpus gland, while the female lacks all these glands, but it has Bartholin's gland. So we can see all these differences in the structures. So I believe today that you have been able to understand the structure and the different functions that this structure perform in the male and the female reproductive system. So bye, see you in our next class.